So this here with me is the Galaxy S21 FE that has been grabbing a lot of headlines lately. Most reviewers have been quite critical about the phone because of how late it launched and maybe because of its relatively higher price tag too. But recently, one of my favorite reviewers, Dev2D, had some positive remarks about it in his video, thus bringing some fresh perspective on the S21 FE. And the reason why I think this phone is receiving a mixture of love and hatred is that if you really dig in, it does offer something that no other phones do in this price range. But at the same time, there are some crucial things that Samsung could have done better here. Anyway, how you take the S21 FE also depends upon the region you live in. If you're located in some place where the Pixel 6 is readily available, the S21 FE comes off as an unwise, costlier choice. I, on the other hand, live in South Asia where Pixel phones have not launched yet, so my view of the S21 FE is a little different and is therefore going to circle around the Nepali and Indian subcontinent. I have been using the S21 FE as my primary device for about 3 weeks now alongside the OnePlus 9RT, which I recently shifted to, while my team members have been testing the Xiaomi 11T Pro and the Vivo V23 Pro. All these phones have incredibly competitive specs and are available at a much cheaper price than the S21 FE. So does it make sense to chip in almost 20% more and go for the S21 FE? Let me talk about that in more detail after this quick message from our sponsor, Glazed Ink. We all know what we do after getting a new phone, right? Slap in a good tempered glass and a cover. For this, Glazed Ink has got you covered with its Invisi and real curved tempered glasses. Starting at just 280 Indian rupees, they last long and applying them is super easy as well. Plus, unlike your off-brand screen protectors, there are no weird air gaps with Glazed Ink's tempered glasses either. If you're thinking of getting a high-quality tempered glass for the Galaxy S21 FE or any other phone for that matter, you will have to look no further. You can get it right here through the link in the description. Also, don't forget to use code GBYTE10 for an additional 10% discount. Alright, first things first, allow me to discuss the things that I absolutely love about this phone, starting with the display. Here, Samsung has made sure to make the S21 FE a good multimedia device by including an excellent, almost flagship level display with great colors, contrast, and brightness levels. And the fact that the bezels on this thing are next to non-existent makes the viewing experience even better. Yes, I know that it does not have a crazy high touch sampling rate as you get with Xiaomi or Realme phones, but the core quality and the color calibration of this screen are quite appreciable and are in fact on par with the likes of the flagship S21 Plus. The optimized 120Hz refresh rate further elevates the user experience, and throughout my usage, I've never faced a single instance of jittery or sluggish UI or any kind of touch response issues whatsoever. To top things off, you also get Gorilla Glass Victus protection here. So yeah, the S21 FE's display is one of the best things about it. However, to bring down the cost, Samsung has replaced the ultrasonic fingerprint sensor that you will find on its flagship phones with an optical one instead. For me, it really has not made a big difference in usability since it's equally fast and accurate, but given the price, I certainly would have appreciated an ultrasonic implementation more. And maybe the hole punch cutout could have had a smaller diameter as well. Regardless, I do love how this display is complemented by an awesome pair of dual speakers whose output is loud and crisp. As I mentioned in my impressions video, it isn't S21 Plus level good, but I can assure you that it will not disappoint you in any way. The audio quality here has balanced mids and highs where the vocals and instruments sound really good too. But coming from the S21 Plus, the thing I miss here is an LTPO screen. S21 FE's inability to dynamically adjust the refresh rate based on the content on the display definitely has had a less than ideal effect on the battery life, which I will talk about more in the later portion of this video. For now, let's get into the cameras, which is another aspect to love about the S21 FE. Although it borrows the same cameras from the S20 FE, it is reliable enough to be your point-to-shoot companion. Be it in daylight or low-light conditions, you can get well-detailed and social media-ready images from this phone. And this is one area where Samsung is ahead of brands like Xiaomi, Realme, or even OnePlus for that matter. Here, the normal daytime images from the S21 FE have that classic punchy color optimization, which makes the photos look appealing. Similarly, this camera is able to maintain details and dynamic range really well too. The only aspect where I think it could be better is maintaining highlights and exposure in a bright environment. And this holds true for both regular and ultra-wide angle shots. Other than that, it can pull off some really good pictures from its normal as well as ultra-wide angle sensors. And one of the reasons why the S21 FE's cameras stand out in this price bracket is also because it has a dedicated telephoto lens capable of 3 times optical zoom. So if you are more into zoom photography, you can get detailed zoom-in shots here. Similarly, the S21 FE natively uses its telephoto lens for portrait shots as well, which translates to incredible subject focus. But you sure can notice the slightly punchy color reproduction here as well. Like the portraits, the S21 FE also takes wonderful selfies. The subjects look bright and the phone delivers consistent results through and through. Moving on to the nighttime images, the onboard OIS works well to preserve details, and shooting with night mode turned on further improves the exposure and detail levels. Sadly, you'll need to be a bit patient since it takes around 10 seconds to process a single shot. So I definitely feel like Samsung needs to work on bringing down the processing time via an update very soon. Even in terms of videos, the S21 FE holds its grounds. Like the S21 Plus, it can shoot steady 4K 60 FPS footages with great quality and color science. The microphone quality is equally impressive with decent background noise cancellation. It's only the selfie videos where the phone does not have the best of stabilization at 4K resolution under both 30 and 60 FPS mode. 1080p footages don't suffer from shakiness though. But even so, I wish the company had provided better stabilization in 4K by cropping the frame a little, since that would have been really helpful for vloggers. Overall, apart from the selfie videos, the S21 FE's cameras do quite a good job in most aspects. And it sure is one reliable option for anyone looking for a good camera phone. Goes on without saying that it is certainly better than the OnePlus 9RT or the Xiaomi 11T Pro on the camera front. Now, I have been using Samsung's flagship phones as one of my primary devices for years, and I have been quite vocal on how One UI is one of my favorite Android skins. As you'd expect, the S21 FE brings the same software experience as other Samsung flagships, meaning the 120Hz display is optimized amazingly, the dark mode is also well implemented, and there are no software bugs or anything unlike the Pixel 6 or Xiaomi's MIUI. Plus, the S21 FE runs on the latest Android 12 based One UI 4 out of the box, and Samsung even promises 3 years of major software and 4 years of security updates for this. Moving on, the phone ships with either Snapdragon 888 or Exynos 2100 depending on your region. Here in South Asia, we have the Exynos variant, and for the most part, its performance is up to the mark, especially when it comes to CPU-intensive workloads. Multitasking with the heaviest apps has not been a problem so far, and RAM management on this thing is really good too. However, unlike the CPU, the S21 FE could not maintain a consistent graphics performance on my test. In demanding games like Genshin Impact, as you can see from this chart, the phone struggles to maintain a steady FPS count throughout the gameplay at the highest settings and 60 FPS mode. Even dialing down the settings to high graphics quality does not help with the stability. Likewise, in Mech Arena, where the phone supports 120 FPS gaming, it starts off with a relatively high 113 FPS but dips to as low as 77 FPS after just a few minutes into the game. And this fluctuation is noticeable all throughout the gaming session. I didn't find any stability issues when playing PUBG though, as the game delivered a stable 58 to 60 FPS on average at smooth graphics and extreme frame rate settings, where Call of Duty is also well playable with a constant 60 FPS even at the highest of settings. During all my gaming sessions, I did not find any major heating issues either, although the phone got slightly warm near the camera module on a few occasions. And this is great news because the Snapdragon 888 and the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chips have been subject to a great deal of criticism for having a bad thermal performance under load. In any case, since I'm not a heavy gamer, the S21 FE's regular day-to-day as well as gaming performances have been plenty enough for me. On a different note, I think Samsung should have put a little more thought into this phone's design. Because of the plastic back, it feels a bit too light and unergonomic for a semi-flagship phone since it does not have that kind of heft. And this is where I have to disagree with what Dave2D said in his video about plastic back on this phone being a better implementation. On the contrary, in my experience, plastic backs get scratches pretty easily, which in turn makes your device look really old, like really fast. Plus, plastic is more susceptible to discoloration in the long run as well. Thankfully, the frames here are made of aluminium, which prevents the S21 FE from totally feeling like a mid-range device. Likewise, it also misses out on good haptics. The vibration feedback here is quite similar to what you would find on a mid-range phone these days. And for something that costs upwards of 50,000 Indian rupees, I find this to be quite disappointing. Even a sub 30,000 phone like the Mi 11X has better haptics than this one. However, I do appreciate the fact that Samsung has included IP68 dust and water resistance as well as Gorilla Glass Victus protection on the front. Considering my relatively rough usage pattern, the S21 FE has held up admirably so far. I have even accidentally dropped it a few times, and as you can see, everything is nice and intact. Finally, one thing that surprised me here is the average battery life. I don't know why it's delivering such a subpar screen on time despite featuring a modest 4500 mAh battery. But I guess this has a lot to do with the display's lack of energy-saving LTPO backplate technology. I am a pretty heavy user, and the S21 FE lasted me for a little less than a full day while keeping the display to 120Hz all the times. But if you are someone who isn't on their phone most of the time, then it's probably not going to be a big concern for you. Plus, with a compatible 25-watt charger, which you will have to buy separately, by the way, it fuels up within 1.5 hours. While I realize it's not as fast as what other brands are offering these days, considering the long-run battery health, I am perfectly fine with it. Overall, having used the S21 FE for a good number of days, I must say that it has definitely grown on me. It has an awesome display. The cameras and performance here are, although not flagship level, they are incredible for the price. And the great stereo speakers alongside the reliable One UI software makes for one satisfying smartphone experience. But the common question many of you might have is, should I pay a premium for this phone over cheaper options like the OnePlus 9RT or the Xiaomi 11T Pro? And this is where the whole value proposition of the S21 Fan Edition becomes fickle. If someone asks me, should I buy the S21 FE at its MSRP of Rs 55,000, then I'd say no, that's insane. This is because apart from its slightly better cameras and the IP68 certification, the S21 FE does not necessarily offer anything extraordinary for the 20 to 25% more money. Therefore, I will highly recommend you wait for the Amazon sale campaign, where Samsung usually comes up with some good discounts like 7 to 10,000 off. And at that price, the S21 FE would make a lot of sense. So there you have it, guys. This was my take on the S21 Fan Edition. I am coming up with plenty of other phone reviews, including some really interesting comparisons, so stay tuned for that.